All right, well, we got some bad news this past week. Apparently, and I've already made the change to my DVR, but apparently we're going to have to start recording Raw now and do the same thing we did with SmackDown to search for Reigns, Heyman, or Lesnar now on Raw. They surprised us because of the switch in the day one pay-per-view. Roman got the COVID. Brock won the other title. And now Brock appeared on this past Monday's Raw. And also so did Heyman, who was not at the pay-per-view in Atlanta on day one. And I didn't know about it ahead of time, so I had to watch the clips that they put out, the official WWF or WWE sanctioned clips, which only contains part of the story. And I went back and actually read the recap to see. I was sure I missed something. I read the recap on pwinsider.com, and I know they had to change plans, but basically the show opened with Paul Heyman in the ring. Ladies and gentlemen, here's Brock Lesnar, and out comes Brock, and they're together. When we last saw Heyman 10 days before that, he was disheveled, hadn't shaved, and his career was over. And whatever they were going to do to determine what Paul was going to do was just thrown out along with the match. I'm not saying that I didn't want to see Paul with Brock, or that I always want to see Brock and Paul and Reigns now, because that's, as we mentioned, about all we got. But doesn't it feel like we missed something in there? That it just, okay, everything, all is forgiven. It was all a plot, but we never found out what the plot was because the plot never came to fruition. Or did it? What did I miss?
Well, I mean, it's not what you missed. It's what Roman Reigns missed, which was WWE Day 1. That changed everything, and we don't know what the long-term plans were. If this was, where things would have been in a month or two or whatever. But there's still things they need to explain clearly. The bigger thing to me was it just felt like there was no oomph to it. It was nice to see Heyman with Lesnar again, but it was just a segment with Heyman and Lesnar. I don't know. It felt like it needed to be a little bit more just coming off that pay-per-view and with questions about Roman and knowing that Heyman's with Lesnar.
It would have only been another, 3 weeks if, just take Heyman out of the equation for a second with what happened. At the pay-per-view, Brock, in dominant fashion, wins the other title, whichever one they call the other title that Reigns doesn't have. But we didn't see Heyman, and we don't know what Heyman's doing. They've announced the match for the Royal Rumble, which I'm all in favor of. Brock Lesnar versus Bobby Lashley, because Lashley's the only one that got offense on him and almost had him beat, if not for the interference and et cetera of the other competitors. So what about if they'd gone to the Royal Rumble and it's Brock versus Lashley, and MVP is obviously there at ringside. Brock's by himself, which puts him in a sympathetic position with the people. And then at some climactic point when he's about to beat Lashley, Heyman, or let me try that again, when he's almost going to get beat by Lashley, Heyman shows up, and they do the little swerve, and then they reunite them somehow when Lesnar needs it. Because, do you see where I'm going with that? Because there was no reason for Paul to come out and show that he was with, that everything's cool and we're copacetic, when he wasn't needed to win Lesnar the title, and he wasn't needed to assist in Lesnar retaining the title.
Although, and I'm not saying this justifies it, they did try to have that explained a little bit with Brock saying that it was Heyman was responsible for him getting the belt last night, and Heyman was doing all these things behind the scenes.
Well, but also he was responsible for getting him in the fucking match, but he didn't do anything to help him win it. Because he wasn't even there. It was Owen. I don't, but again, as I said earlier in the program, I think they really ought to shake his fucking thing up and shake people up and shake up their preconceived notions about what's going on. if they want to pour some fucking steam on this thing, if they do, let's say maybe, for example, maybe Brock loses to Lashley at the Royal Rumble. Now, I mean, now that we've already revealed that Heyman's around, Brock loses to Lashley at the Royal Rumble in the title match through some fucking swervy means, not just because he got beat, and then shows up in an open position or takes somebody out, goes in the Royal Rumble the very next match and kicks the shit out of some people and wins it, and he's still going to meet Reigns at WrestleMania.
I like that.
I mean, you know, you could do that now. That wouldn't make sense with what I just said, but since before about Heyman and et cetera, but since they ain't going to do that now, that horse has left the barn. They could do something like that. But I just felt like we missed a part of the puzzle with them just deciding to go ahead and, well, they're just here now. We didn't even see a big reveal or the aha moment or the "you're the father." Although nobody's ever suggested that Paul was the father of anything.
Oh, stop it. They announced Reigns is going to be on SmackDown on Friday, correct?
Yes, they did. So at the very least, could not Brock have come out? And then could the news that Reigns will be at SmackDown have been imparted? And then somebody find Paul Lee, and that would be a place. Now he's in a fucking gutter somewhere. He's behind a bingo hall in South Philly. On Swanson and Rittner is where they see the Swanson and Rittner street sign, and they pan down, and there's Paul. Now he's got a fucking beard, and he's in his old trench coat and his old hat with a fake ponytail, and he's got a fucking bottle with a brown paper bag around it. He's like, I don't know what's going to happen now. I'm finished. I'm done. I'm gone. Let him fight it out. And then he shows up, and I don't know. Just me. But as long as they can keep Lashley and Reigns and Brock on somewhat of an even keel, then they've got a couple of different ways to go for the next several big events. Somebody said, well, how dare you, Cornette, and talked about how thanks for coming, Big E, but it's time for the big boys to play because it's WrestleMania season. And, you know, Seth and Kevin Steen were nice foils in this, but everybody believes in these three guys. And somebody said, Cornette's such a racist. Of course he wanted to see Big E lose in favor of people like Brock and Lashley. And I was like, what? Wait, what? Yeah, I'm a racist because I wanted the one black guy to kick the shit out of the other black guy because I like the one black guy better. Fucking hell.